We'll get all caught up. All right. Good morning. So I'm taking roll. We got Lee and Janice. Thank you, David. And
Good morning.
good morning. How you feeling?
It's a great day.
It sure is. It sure is. We were saying earlier, it's a Monday. I had a wild Monday, but it's all right. The morning was busy, but we're going to get started and we're going to have a great session. I'm excited to be with you all today. Today we got a busy session, so I'm recording. Always make sure you see that little red button up there. And let's go to our homepage. I got a couple of announcements. Oh, what happened to my page? My page is looking strange. Let's see here. My page is looking blurry. What happened? Let me refresh it because that's not looking good. There we go. All right, let me come back to you, class. Let me share my page again. We're going to go to your D2L page. There we go. That looks better. These computers. So today's date is June 13, Monday, June 13. So let's backtrack a little bit. For those people who are watching the video, if you're not able to join us, remember, once again, just backtracking that this is pastoral ministry class. We're going to meet on Mondays. When there's a holiday, we will meet on Tuesday. So today is June 13. We're meeting on Monday, but next week is a holiday. Juneteenth is June 20th, Monday, June 20th. And we are going to, as African Americans, we're going to take our time and celebrate, but we will not meet on that federal holiday on Monday the 20th. We'll come back on June 21st, Tuesday, June 21st at 11. If you can make it, cool. You can join us on Tuesday the 21st. Remember, Monday is a holiday. All right, just a review for those who are here and those who are watching. Your syllabus and resource tab is up at the top. Always make sure you check this out. Save your syllabus. And I want to bring this to your attention as well. There is a pastoral ministry handout that you can save and keep. We will refer to it with some of our PowerPoint lessons. So make sure that you know where that is, found in the syllabus and resources folder at the top. All right, last week you all did your discussion post. If you haven't done it already, I remind you to please don't forget your discussion for week 2, because I'll be coming around and grading those on one of our authors, Dr. Gardner C. Taylor. Last week, we started chapter 1, where we talked about the introduction of pastoral ministry and the calling or the commission. And then later on today, we will talk about the pastor as teacher. On your schedule, let me go to your schedule real quick because I want to show you something on the syllabus. If you guys are all right. I want to show you your syllabus and let's go over what we have coming down the pike. All right. Walter, can you see my syllabus on the screen? Just open your mic and let me know if you can see it.
Yes, I can see it well.
Okay, super. All right, everyone. So we find ourselves in week 3. We're going to talk about the pastor as teacher today. And remember, your discussion forum is going to be on our second author, on Dr. Proctor, Dr. Samuel D. Proctor. We do have a quiz 1 that is scheduled. It is not posted yet, and just give me about 24 hours. I will have it posted, and your due date will probably be a week from today. So it will be due on the 20th of June. 20th of June. That's our off day. And your quiz will be focused on chapters 1 and 2. Chapters 1 and 2. Okay. All right, so today I want to stop real quick and I'm gonna come back to you before we get started. Um, how we doing? Okay, we still. Oh, good morning, Gloria. Today, before we get started in our lesson, we're going to talk about pastor as teacher. But I do want to start brainstorming with the group on our class project. And so, one of the things that we're going to work on in your class project is a virtual forum. Let me see if I have it, can pull it up here. A virtual forum. And so, with this virtual forum, what we're going to do is present. Let me see if I can stop. Present a forum where we can share the knowledge that we have been gaining about pastoral leadership. Remember, when we talk about pastoral ministry, the person may, yes, serve in leadership as a pastoral role in a church, or it could be in another religious organization. As you all are reading your book from Taylor and Gardner, we have different sections that we're going to talk about of how the leader can work with different people, like with the family. We're talking about teaching, talking about taking care of the of self, and exercising and things like that. So now I want to start some brainstorming with you. If we could maybe do this for about 10 minutes. I don't want to take too much time. I want to brainstorm with you on our virtual session. So far, I have the date of, I'm going to see if I can put this in the chat, of July, and you all can open your microphones and talk with me, of July 21st, and that is a Thursday evening. Okay. Our session will be over Zoom, so it'll be virtual so that everybody can see us. Now, I know we don't have the full group here, and we can just start brainstorming on our panel, and how we want that to look. So now I want to start with topics. Now we only have, now sometimes when we do things, we have 1 hour. So we're going to start at 7 and preferably be done at 8. So we can't tell everybody everything in an hour. You know how folks try to cram everything in there. So what I want you to think about, students, is what are some things you can start thumbing through your book? What are some things that you would love to share with people of leadership in a religious organization or a church, or a pastor? Some tips that this forum will share tips, will share research from our book, and other research that we're going to do in helping those in leadership or helping those who are pastors become better at their craft. And so now I just want to start. If you want to open your microphone, if you want to type in the chat, if you're not able to talk, you can do so that we can start brainstorming. One of the areas that we're going to talk about in the book is counseling. Let me grab my book. Y'all can talk. Let me grab something real quick. I'm listening to you. Okay. If it's too hard, hey. Okay, that's all right. I'm gonna put some suggestions out there. So when we're thinking about our virtual session, what would be, and you can just brainstorm, we are not nailing anything down. Um, and you can thumb through your book as well to give you some ideas. What would be some things that you would love to share with someone in leadership, on how to better their craft? So one of the things that we can lift up in our session is counseling. And I put that word in there, counseling. And in that chapter, we're going to understand that every pastor is not a licensed counselor. So we might, that evening, might want to equip pastors with maybe some resources or tools, because the person could find themselves as, yes, they serve in leadership, but they may not be a licensed counselor to do family counseling or addiction counseling. That may be way above their head. So where are some places that we may can, what's the word? Point them in the direction to. Those are some things that we may can bring up. I see Ms. Duhart's typing in the chat. Um, Here's another idea I want to bring up: cultural challenges. Cultural challenges. Ms. Duhart, talk a little bit more about that.
For an example, sometimes you can, just because a person may be a person of color, Americans are very different from African descent, very different from European descent, people of color, very different from Haitian descent, people of color. So sometimes cultural challenges could be different. And
Yeah,
even in America, Southern people of color can be very different from Northern or Western. So sometimes cultural competency is not always something that is taught, is developed or understood.
awesome. So I'm going to put that under the category of counseling and resources. I hear cultural challenges. Oh, can I add this on there too? Um, and Gloria, I'm coming to you.
Okay.
Mental health, because sometimes the pastor is not licensed or whatever to deal with the person's mental health or mental illness situation that they're going through, but we could probably maybe find a list of some things that we could provide for them. Yes. Gloria.
I think I'm going to piggyback first on what Ms. Juhar said, um, that I forgot that already, but let me go to this point. Um, Generational, because there's a stark difference between a boomer and a Gen Z now. And you need to have some understanding of the experiences and culture that has shaped that generation.
Excellent. I'm going to put these in the chat, and then Ms. Duhart, I want you to come back. You say something about recruitment.
Yes, ma'am. Also, my classmate, Janice Jones, put something in the chat as well. Recruitment. A lot of ministers of the gospel tend to think recruitment is, oh, so you want to be saved? Okay, join the church. Recruitment is a strategy. It's a it can be, it's a theory. It's also a methodology to it. It's not just by spirit as well. And so I think some training could be done for pastors on recruiting. How do you fish? All of us don't just go out to get a hook and get a bait and get a fishing line and just go to the water and say fish. You had to be taught how to hook it, how to bait it, what baits go. Recruitment.
Recruitment, I like that. And Ms. Janice, go ahead. I put that as a number 4, community outreach, working in the community. Tell me a little bit more. I like that. That's needed. Community. Maybe on mute. Okay, but we're going to add that in there. If you're able to talk, you could go right ahead, Ms. Janice. Can I add this one on there too? We're going to make this our number 5. And this is actually going to be one of our journal articles that we're going to include, is self-care for the leader, whether they are a pastor or just a leader of the religious organization. But one of, and I don't have to tell you, COVID has really done a number on leadership. But leadership also with within the church. We have seen pastors become burnt out, suffer with mental illness, and even before COVID, right, suffer with mental illness, become burnt out, not dealing with their own anxieties or depression, not dealing with their own physical health, weight, diet. And that's a big thing as well, because when you're physically not healthy, when you're fit or you're mentally not healthy, when you're just not there, it's hard to help people. Like they say on the airplane, put your
Yep.
mask on first and help yourself before you try to help somebody else. Um, and so, uh, good. And so that really, I think we really need to kind of add that in there. Okay, great. I'm seeing some good topics. So let's see here. Somebody might mute the microphone, please. Somebody, I need you to mute
I'm
your
sorry.
microphone.
It was
Thank
on.
you.
No, it's on.
Okay. How to show sincerity of your Christianship while helping others. Good. The importance of ongoing professional development. And Gloria, knowing your strengths. Very good. Very good. So this is great. We have some areas that we can start fleshing out. So we have up at the top, counseling. I do like the generational issues, recruitment, building up the church. We are seeing so many churches. I went to drop my son off today at a camp, and it was taking place in a church building, but across the street was an abandoned church. Nobody was in that church, and I just felt so sad that this church has closed. All right, working in the community, self-care, knowing your strengths for the leader, and 6, how to show sincerity. Walter, give me a little bit more. What you mean there? Unmute yourself. You're on mute.
When I was listening to Dr. Gregory, the one thing he said that was real important was, he thought was real important was a paper that he written on, is your preaching Christian. And I would think the same thing would happen in whatever we're going to do, is that we have to show the Christianity in here, and not necessarily by pushing it on them, but just maybe by the actions that we do. So if you organize anything, be able to show the Christian part of what you're doing,
Right.
and not necessarily in words only.
That's a good point. That was, I want to say, in chapter 1 or 2 of the book. I want to say in chapter 2 of the book. And I believe it was Taylor was saying, with everything, we're teaching people how to do something. And so even if you put on a program, even if you have an anniversary dinner or whatever, you want to make sure that it's not just done because you threw it together, but people also get something out of it. They're enriched. They walk out better after this particular event, and you really put the Christian part into it, not just you just did it to do it. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Like Solomon, how to walk before those you are leading. Very good. All right. So now here's the thing, and we're going to pause because I see it's 11:24. My challenge for us is we have about 6 subtopics here, 6 or 7 subtopics. And I would like for us, because we're only going to have an hour, let's chat about what would be our top 4. What would be our top 4? Because in interest of time, it could get good. And our panel will get to talking, and we're already claiming that we're going to have so many people on our Zoom, and they're just going to be asking questions. And so we want to allow time for that as well. What would you say would be our top 4?
Professor, is counseling our main topic, or is that one of the subtopics?
I think that could be one of the subtopics.
Okay, well then, what would be our overarching topic? What are we trying to convey overall to the,
Good. So I would say I like that question. So like our overall purpose would
yes,
be, yes, ma'am. So our overall purpose would be, what are some tools or strategies,
okay,
yes, ma'am, that we could give to those who are serving in pastoral ministry?
all right. So counseling would be one.
Do hard stop for. All right, so we have self-care. Here's the idea here: self-care, counseling, outreach, and walk before those you are leading. We're gonna call it like that's like that chapter one, that's shepherding. Anybody else want to add on there, or that, does that look good? And see, the other great thing is, the other things that we talked about, is not that we don't talk about them. We can put them up under those four
Yes,
branches. It just helps us to organize this a little bit, a little bit better.
Yes, I like how you said the walk before those that are leading is the shepherding, because that can also go to another comment. I think Mr. Walter said about, someone said something about making sure it's applicable, making sure you can use it. Something you can, you're making sure you're sincere, when you help others. So that can fall under shepherding.
Got you. So I'm writing down these four. If anybody has any issues or whatever, you can just chat right now. Okay, I got self-care, counseling. That's a big one, especially in this time. Ooh, with helping folks with their mental health is so important. We all need it. We all need it. And walking before those, I'm gonna make that shepherding. Okay, walking, walk before those you are leading. Oh, wait a minute, Miss Duhart. Excuse me. We
I was
have
going to suggest that since we're going to present this openly.
the Pastoral Toolbox virtual forum.
We got a tagline, AMSC, the AMSC Pastoral Toolbox.
I see a little toolbox there on our graphic. Very good. Y'all like this? This is when great minds come together. Those people who are also watching virtually, watching the recording, if you have other suggestions, you slip me an email. I like that title. Uh, the AMSC Religious Studies or something like that. Pastoral Toolbox. Our date, Thursday, July 21st. This will be 7 p.m. We want to, yes, Janice, I think that's a good title. We want to be conscientious of time, and people have things to do. So we'll say 7 to 8. Did I put this in the chat? 7 to 8 p.m. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Duhart. And of course, it will be virtual. I have Zoom, so I'll set up the Zoom link once we start working on flyers and things like that. All right, so we have I see David is chatting. We have our 4 umbrellas. The next step next week, remember next week, y'all, is Juneteenth Monday, and we'll meet on Tuesday. So our next step next week is we're going to form groups that will work on those 4 umbrellas. Okay? Self-care, counseling, outreach, shepherding. Okay. And so I know some of the folks are watching, and you're working and you're like, I can't get there and watch during the day. It's okay. So we're going to form groups so that we can kind of say, what do we want our self-care component to look like? And you're going to choose somebody to speak. And then you're going to say, what do we want our counseling section to address? And then you'll choose a spokesperson. Same thing for the outreach umbrella and the shepherding umbrella. I also would like to tag anybody and I'm not pressuring anyone, but if you do serve in pastoral leadership or a leadership role in a religious organization or a church, by all means, add your expertise. You can volunteer to be a speaker in that area. That's fine. Because I really think that this is going to be something unique once we get our graphics together, team. And I'm talking team because you are the class. I'm talking to the entire class, those who are watching and those who are here. You're going to be reaching out to your friends, family members, organizational members, church members, and say, hey, this is what my colleagues have come up with. We would like for you to join us. And especially if you have any questions, we definitely want them to ask questions at the end of our forum. How you guys feeling about that?
Fine.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm excited. All right.
Mr. Duhart, the date should be the 21st,
21st, what she had on?
31st.
Oh,
And it's 31st is a Sunday.
thank you.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
I was thinking about those who would come on later,
That's right.
just look at it and, but that's good.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
All right. I'm coming right back to you. I'm going to pull up our PowerPoint. There's one thing that I do want to highlight from last week that we did not get to, and then we will come to chapter 2. So just give me 1 second. All right, I'm coming back to you. All right, everybody, I hope that you are also enjoying learning about our authors in our discussion as you're going to watch those real life videos of Taylor and Gardner. So, amen. All right, so I do want to just highlight one thing from chapter 1. Let me make this. In chapter 1, Dr. Taylor was talking about the pastor's commission. Somebody reflect from last week, what does commission mean? Anybody remember? Not sure. So the commission is the calling. And we said last week that as this person is serving in pastoral ministry or pastoral leadership, remember, yes, they can be over a church, but over some type of religious organization, right? Dr. Taylor said that this should be something that is weighty, not something that the person just said, well, this is what I'm going to do today, like they were just getting a job at Amazon, nothing wrong with working at Amazon, but Taylor says that this particular call or charge on the person's life should be something that has been well thought out and not something rushed to. Last week, we started talking about the analogy of shepherding. And let's go back a little bit. And we talked about the animal, the sheep, right? And the animal, what were some flaws about the sheep? Y'all remember from last week? And we don't see sheep too much in our area unless you go out to the countryside. But are they considered smart?
They normally require a leader or someone to direct their path or keep them aligned.
There you go. So for the animals themselves, they're not really considered the most brightest animal, but they definitely need guidance, because when they don't have guidance, that the animal, they go astray. They walk all over the countryside, and so they need a shepherd. And the analogy here is that the shepherd, the person guiding the sheep, takes care of them, gives them food and water, and make sure that they have grass and all that good stuff. All right. Now, when we take it over to leadership, to human people, and the shepherd being the people that the shepherd is over, there are a lot of similarities. So the person, the shepherd, is leading the people. They instruct them in the way to go. And later on, we're going to talk about teaching. Okay. They make sure that the sheep have what they need. They care for them. They care for the family as they grow. And so there's a lot for the shepherd, the person, to do in terms of leadership. But sometimes we have bad shepherds. And in leadership, everybody's not leading because they have a good heart, unfortunately. So there are three things I want to hit right here, and then we will move to the pastor as teacher. So if the Dr. Taylor talked about if the leader has character flaws, if the leader is doing something um, wrong, there are going to be some judgments. And if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, coming from Ezekiel, there are three things that I just want to highlight. Number one, God is against the evil shepherds. So if uh, the person, and when we talk about shepherds here in 1, 2, 3, we're talking about people, not necessarily the one that's over the animal. And so God is like, look, I've assigned you to work with these people and to lead them and to feed them and make sure that they're good. And you're doing something that's wrong to the people. God's not going to stand up for that. Number two, God will require the flock at their hand. And so God's saying, look, if you can't deal with them, give them to me. Okay. And lastly, down here under point 3, God will force evil shepherds to cease from feeding the flock. So God cares for the sheep, or cares for the flock so much that the Creator God is not going to allow that leadership to continue to go on. Let me just pause a little bit as we go to this last part. We have probably seen that happen when a leader has some type of character flaw and doesn't want to care for the people correctly. We see it sometimes exposed. We see the person maybe removed from the church or removed from the organization. Okay, because if they continue to stay in the organization or the church, it hinders the people. It hinders the flock. So here's a discussion. I'm going to see if I can bring this article up. What happens when leadership has character flaws and does not care for the flock? I'm going to see if I can get this article up. Give me 1 second. Uh-oh. All right. Let me know if you can see this article headline. It says more than 50 Florida pastors on Southern Baptist Church's list of alleged sexual abusers. Can you see my article? Uh-oh.
No.
No. Okay. It seems that when I
I
share.
cannot.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Let me come back. It seems that when I go to another link, it cuts off. What about now?
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
Now,
it's visible now.
super. Thank you. You all may have heard of this story, and it is unfortunately nothing new. More than 50 Florida pastors were found on this list of alleged sexual abusers in the Southern Baptist Church's group, denomination. And so we won't read the entire thing, but These pastors were investigated for sexual misconduct. And it said, if you look right here, it was a 205-page list. That is a shame, of names and details of the allegations against some of pastors, some clergy people, and other church officials and pastoral leadership, pastoral ministries who worked in the Southern Baptist churches throughout the South. This is just one example of what happens when, the leader is not working right. The leader is literally abusing the flock. And our question,
I think we lost her. Her connection dropped. There she goes.
can you see and hear me?
We can now.
Okay, I was just a talking and it said I had an error. It said, "Oh, I ran into something," and it just threw me out. So sorry about that. This internet and computers does its thing. But anyway, let's pick back up on that conversation. I think I was talking about the pastors, right, in Florida, who were on that alleged list of abusing and hurting the flock. Our discussion was, what happens? We have so much fallout when the person is not taking their calling or their commission. Remember chapter 1, commission, when they don't take it seriously. I believe it was Dr. Taylor said in chapter 1, when the person has personal issues, when the leader has personal issues and they're not getting their self checked on whatever's going on, maybe some mental stuff going on, it's just, you just leave the door open for other things. I'm gonna leave this up for discussion as I switch to chapter 2. Anybody want to jump in there? Mhm. I think you're on mute, Mr. Walter.
Yeah, I was just saying I was okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
I think, Professor, an organization, not just a church, but all types of organizations, you come in and you want to do good, but you see so many or that are not, that eventually you come and it grows like a virus, or something, and that's how it spreads throughout the organization. Because it was, I think, a total of 500, almost 550 names on that list. So it's not just the one person, the bad apple spoils the whole bunch. And so maybe it starts with one or two, but if you don't cut it off or exterminate it, it's going to go through the whole organization. And I think that's just like the Catholic and whatever, that's what happens.
I like that. Ms. Gloria said it's like a virus. The bad leader gets in. David said, "Uh-oh." The bad leader gets in, and unfortunately, with their poor leadership, with them not checking the stuff inside of them, I hate to say it, y'all, it like gives a pass for other people to do wrong. And you see how, like you said, yeah, years with the Catholic Church and with other denominations, these are not the only ones, because unfortunately there are so many. People turn a blind eye to things, but we just saw in that last slide, y'all remember the last slide, um, of pastoral leadership in, I believe it was Ezekiel. God has things that were already planned out, that, hey, I called you to this. This is serious. If the leader is not taking it seriously, then repercussions will come to that to that person, to that leader, because leading the people or leading the flock is serious business. All right. All right, cool. Let's jump to chapter 2. We're going to transition a little bit to pastor as teacher. Let me know. Let me hear from somebody. Just open your microphone if you can see my slideshow that says pastor as teacher.
I can see it.
Awesome. Thank you. Pastor as teacher. Now we're going to move through this a little bit, and let me grab some water. The pastor is responsible for teaching. So we're going to go to, if somebody feels led, go to Matthew 7:28 through 29. Somebody read that for me, please. I'm going to get a sip of water.
Well, I can just read from what she has here. When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, because he taught as one who had authority and not as their teachers of the law.
Right. So here we see, thank you. So here we see in, some of you were with me for the New Testament class, right? And remember on our gospel, so we have the Gospel of Mark, is showing Jesus with authority. He was a teacher. This might be on your quiz, rabbi. Jesus was called rabbi many times. Rabbi means teacher. Where were some locations where Jesus taught? Anybody know any locations where he taught? Not just one place. So Jesus's ministry.
Galilee.
Go ahead.
Galilee.
Okay, Galilee location. So was it just in a synagogue? Was he just in synagogues?
No, he had a he was outside, where, because many, I think, because a lot of the people wouldn't have been welcome in the synagogue,
Uh-huh.
because it was a mixed group. It was Jews, it was Gentiles, it was pagans. All were mixed in that group who came to listen to him.
Very good. So what I want you all to get is a couple things here. If you're watching the video or if you're here with us virtually, Jesus was a teacher. That was one of his, not the only, but one of his main ministry goals or main ministry objectives is to teach the people right from wrong, teach them scripture, teach them the way to go. Okay, because once they had education, or once they had the scriptures, they could do so many other things. Jesus was a teacher. Second thing that I want you to remember is the term rabbi, Jewish term here. Remember, you were with me for the New Testament class. We're talking a lot here until about Acts or so about Jewish culture and Jewish teaching. So rabbi, a Jewish word here, or teacher. Remember also his location. Where did he teach? Yes, he taught in the synagogues, but he also taught, excuse me, just in people's homes, on mountainsides, outside. It was not, what's the word, generalized to a particular place. Okay. All right. So pastor must be a teacher. Here's the second thing that I want to talk to you about is religion and education. So religion and education kind of marry each other. They go hand in hand. So if you think about years, and really we want to go centuries and centuries ago, um, older pastors, their fundamental role was teaching. So if you think about like our enslaved ancestors who were not able to read, those early churches were formed because they had a literate pastor. So that pastor could read, that pastor, maybe they were a freed person, and that person could read and then interpret the Bible for them. Okay, so you see how religion and education go hand in hand. And then later on, as our ancestors became freed in the South, you saw a lot of colleges became started in the South from churches. So, AME churches, uh, yeah, Presbyterian churches. I know the college that I went to for undergrad, Johnson C. Smith University, was started by a Presbyterian church. So you see a lot of churches, religion, right? Spawned education. So if you were able to read, okay, you were able to be educated. Everybody all right? Okay. Now, on page 16 of your book, we're going to talk a little bit more about what the pastor teaches. This is on page 16, what the pastor teaches, and we can pause right here and chat. So the pastor's job in teaching is about looking at the gospel, looking at the scriptures, and applying them to everyday life. So what does that look like in our personal behavior? How are we supposed to act in our homes? Our civic orientation or duties in our neighborhoods, in our state. Um, Politics. Are we paying our taxes or we not paying our taxes? Stewardship, taking care of your finances, health care, taking care of your body, going to the doctors. Um, the pastor can also teach on intercultural relations, dealing with other people in your neighborhood, in your city, and also our view of the world. How do we look at the world? Okay, are we angry, or are we just looking at this as we're all in this world together? Okay. Then let me just pause a little bit. Everybody okay? Anybody want to add anything to that? Okay. Don't let me lead you. On the left-hand side, the pastor must teach who God is and who we are. Okay, so the whole thing is relationship. Who are we as humans? That's the pastor's job. The pastor says, okay, this is who we are as humans. This is who God is. And this is how we form our relationship with the Creator. And if something happens to that relationship, how do we mend it? How do we become whole? That's the pastor's job in teaching. So we're talking about teaching, education here today. All right. Now, later on tonight or this week, I want you to go to your ministry handout, your pastoral ministry handout. Okay. And that's going to be found on pages 51 through 56. Okay. Your pastoral ministry handout. And that's going to be found in the syllabus and resources section in D2L. Now you're going to have the answers to these two questions. What happens with a leader who, I should say who does not study? What happens? What do you think could happen to a leader who doesn't study? So if one of the roles is to teach, well, before I teach or before the person's presenting something, they got to study something. And then here's my second question. What are some hindrances to the pastor's study life? What can hinder the pastor from studying? Anybody want to address either of those two questions? What happens when a leader doesn't study?
Well, I'm going to say one of the most obvious is someone that he's trying to teach is going to recognize it right away.
Right.
Just because he's here doesn't mean that his students are the ones he's talking to are not studying. So sometimes things like that will become obvious right away.
They sure will. They sure will. Our congregations are more educated. Guess what? We have phones, we have computers, we can look stuff up, we Google and say, hey, wait a minute, that's not right. They're going to check them.
I know I do that. So I'm gonna follow it that. I check it out. Something is said, and I said, I don't know about that, and then I check it on my phone. But sometimes the pastor has a full-time job, and he's married. He got children. He got everything that we have to do,
Mhm.
and sometimes that doesn't give him the amount of uninterrupted study time that he or she wants and needs.
Very good. So that would answer, that's a great answer for our second question. What are some of the hindrances to the study life, to the pastor's study life? And this actually is going to be one of our assignments, I think, when we talk about pastors are bivocational. That means nowadays, and anybody can chime in on this, um, we need a lot more income to live these days. as as opposed to, you know, let's say the turn of the century, the pastor didn't have as much. You know, you may have had your home and maybe a horse or whatever to move you around. As technology got better, maybe the person had a car. But and you know the church took care of maybe a little house or something, but now pastors are more educated. They have come with degrees where they've worked in other areas before, and it's not that they don't like it. Maybe they also need that for their retirement and other things.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they have jobs.
He used to give a pastor chicken.
Right. Right. Now the chicken dinner might not be working for for him right now.
Yeah. And what happens when a leader does not study? It says that the shepherd or the leader is to feed the flock. And so if the leader isn't studying, he's not giving the congregation nourishing good food,
That's right.
and the congregation becomes malnourished.
That's good. That's good. Becomes malnourished. It's like feeding your family the same food over and over again. It becomes stale. They don't want to eat it. And then you find the person is saying the same stuff. Or you got to and okay, as you read that pastoral ministry handout on pages 51 through 56, okay, you can keep this on your computer, but it gives a lot of resources that we can also lift up in our pastoral toolbox forum of reading the newspaper along with the Bible, watching the news, reading other books to make sure that the person is well rounded in his or her study. All right, let's go into the home stretch here. Make sure we get finished with this chapter. Dr. Taylor, excuse me, also says that because the pastor teaches, the pastor is also teaching theology. And theology is how we see God. So the pastor is teaching, yes, about the scriptures and about the world and how we see ourselves, but you also got to teach theology. So Dr. Taylor said that pastors should show people how life should be lived. The challenge also that he said in teaching is that it can be very challenging relating to people in 2022 from people that are in the Old Testament and people in the New Testament. That's where sometimes our young people, youth get a little turned off because they're like, you talking about camels and donkeys, and I'm riding a Honda. So it's hard for them to understand burning bushes and um, talking on mountains. You understand? And so that can be a big challenge for the teaching aspect. Well, if you look in the rectangle down on the bottom, Dr. Taylor says, and let's talk about this real quick. Dr. Taylor said that people who are lacking in sophistication need teaching at the street level. People who are lacking in sophistication need teaching at the street level. What do you think he means by that? need
Most people,
teaching. Go
they
ahead.
are. Yeah, don't try to talk about people, but approach people that they are on their level.
Right, on their own level. And so when the pastor finds him or herself teaching, showing people things, and the teaching doesn't always have to be a formal study. Look at the top part, the top rectangle, teaching people how life should be lived. That could be just an example of what you see the person doing, not necessarily a formal sermon or anything like that. But sometimes people just need it just straight and to the point. Tell me what it said in this scripture, because sometimes it's confusing for the people. All right. Pastors must teach what is right and do the same thing. Don't do what is opposite. So Taylor says one cannot teach correct civic behavior while you're demonstrating the opposite. For example, he gave a lot of examples that made me chuckle. He said, the wrong message is sent when the pastor can't drive and their license was suspended, or when the pastor has speeding tickets. That's the wrong message. He said the wrong message is sent when the pastor doesn't pay his or her taxes. That's not good. Eating the right foods, maintaining your health. You're not uh, unhealthy, taking care of your body the best that we can. And it was interesting that Dr. Taylor said, we're always teaching, so we have to be careful about what we teach. You're teaching even when you think you're not teaching. So here's a question for you as we pause. We're coming to the end here. What should a person do if they are leading a religious organization and find him or herself in an immoral situation? Now, those immoral situations don't always have to be, some, you're messing around on your husband or wife, not always that. So, for example, we take that second point. The person had speeding tickets. They got an issue paying their taxes. April 15th came and gone and something happened, didn't pay. What should that leader do? Any ideas?
Well, what they're supposed to do is find someone that they're accountable to, um, confess it, repent, and they may have to step down or go away from their position for a while until they can get some help for their situation. But, that's the model that you're supposed to do, but that rarely happens.
It rarely happens. I see what you're saying. Right. So I hear you saying that there is some, I like the A word, accountability that must be had with a human person
Mm-hmm.
as well as with the Creator God. After reading chapter 2, what would we say if we could make suggestions to a leader or a pastor? How could they improve their teaching? Or what suggestions would you have to a particular pastor about studying or teaching to people, regular folks just like us? Let me come and look at it. Okay. No suggestions yet? Okay. So as we chatted earlier today, here's one of the suggestions that I would say. Remember the quote that we had, Dr. Taylor said, some people just meet them on the street level. When we talk about teaching doesn't always need to be on a PhD level for everybody. Teaching needs to be, I'm gonna write this in the chat, simple. Make it simplistic. Allow people, just like we're teaching here in this session, allow people to see, how does this apply to my everyday life? Okay. Anybody serve in leadership, or you may do some teaching where you might say, I could brush up on this, or I might want to make some improvements. Okay, I see some typing. And Mr. Lee, did I see your microphone?
I think one thing you have to do, Professor Barry, is as Paul did. He said he as became as weak so that he might reach them. He became this that he might reach others. That you have to that street level will be meeting them where they are, because I think the objective is to bring them from where they are to another level.
Awesome. I put this in the chat. Mr. Lee said street level means meeting them where they are. We don't have to expect the person to be on a PhD level or something crazy.
And I think that you have to paint the picture, because trying to paint the picture for Israel, that period of time, the donkeys and the cows and everything, and if you say they went from Jerusalem to Galilee, well, that doesn't mean anything to me. But you tell them it's as far as downtown Atlanta is from Kennesaw or something like that. So that's what you do to bring everybody in, so they have a visual reference to go off of.
That's good for teaching. Very good. When we're relating aspects from Old and New Testament, it is very hard. Yeah, I like that. Help them to see that. What was the journey? And we have cars and all that. We don't walk places much very often. The only place I walk is around the neighborhood for exercise. But they had to walk places or take an animal or get on a horse or a donkey or whatever to go somewhere. And I like that. If you say, hey, well, this is about, and guess what? That required study, Gloria. And so the person says from Kennesaw to downtown Atlanta, they had to figure out, all right, now I got to figure out how far Galilee was from this other place. Good. So as we finish chapter 2, don't want to hold you too long. As we finish chapter 2, this is the key thing, pastor as teacher. And if the shepherd, remember the shepherd, the role of pastor is shepherd. If they are not feeding the flock, educating the flock, pointing them and guiding them in the way to go, they will, someone said earlier, they'll become malnourished, they'll die. And I'm talking about the animal. Sheep will die, walk off. And we don't want that to happen in the shepherding role to the humans. Okay, so we got to brush up, and we'll be sharing more of this in our virtual forum, and when we talk on maybe out when we talk about shepherding and teaching them on their level. All right, everybody, don't want to hold you too long. Any questions? Awesome. Okay, hearing no questions. All right, so just want to remind those who are watching, going to watch the video. I will have your quiz. One is not ready yet, so I'll get that posted for you, and it will be due on the 20th, and it will review your chapters 1 and 2, as well as make sure in your PowerPoints you take a look at those supplemental readings in the pastoral ministry handout. That then look at those pages that I had, because I'll highlight some things exactly from those areas. And assignments due this week. Yes, thank you, Ms. Duhart. Assignments due this week. We'll recap. Let me go back
Yeah,
here.
I'm asking the question. I don't have my syllabus in front of me. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're cool. You're fine. So no problem. Let me go back here. Assignments due this week. We're in week 3. So that will be your discussion forum on Dr. Proctor. I hope you're enjoying watching those videos and getting to know the authors kind of personally. So you have your discussion forum on Proctor and quiz 1. Okay. All right. All right. She said the Dr. Taylor is awesome. All right. I thought you would love those interviews. All right, everyone. Okay. Well, I hope that you continue to have a great day. Stay safe. All right. Take care.
All right, bye.
All right. Thank you.